or Krishna, who is the topmost object of worship. So it's very important that you read these verses, otherwise you won't get any benefit from these descriptions, because we're covering some of the most important verses in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. And these first few chapters establish the main themes that are going to be discussed more thoroughly in later cantos. So it's very important that we read the reading assignments for each session ahead of time and be somewhat familiar. And so many things are being discussed, and so many important points are being discussed. So we begin verses 23 to 25 explain the guna avatars. And amongst the guna avatars, who Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, Lord Vishnu is supposed to be worshipped. He maintains the mode of goodness, and Brahma the mode of passion, and Shiva the mode of ignorance. So then also, verse 26 and 27, this topic is rejecting the worship of demigods. And devotees generally reject the ghastly forms of demigods without being envious of them. And that's very important. And then verse 28 and 29 explains the glories of Bhagavan Krishna, also known as Vasudeva, and he's the essence of all spiritual practices. And so we'll begin first canto, second chapter, verse number 23. And this verse says, the transcendental personality of Godhead is indirectly associated with the three modes of material nature, namely passion, goodness, and ignorance. And just for the material world's creation, maintenance, and destruction, he accepts the three qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Of these three, all human beings can derive ultimate benefit from Vishnu, the form of the quality of goodness. So Srila Prabhupada explains that Lord Sri Krishna, by his plenary parts, there's such thing as plenary expansions, partial plenary expansions, and partial plenary expansions. First of all, the word plenary in English means complete or absolute. So a plenary expansion of Krishna is like Lord Balaram. There's only one difference between Balaram and Krishna, that is, Balaram is light-skinned and Krishna is dark-skinned, or dark-bodied and light-bodied. Otherwise, there's no other difference. Balaram has all the powers of Krishna. And then another plenary expansion of the Lord is Narayana. He has all the powers of the Lord, but he doesn't have all the sweetness of the Lord. He has sweetness, but not all the sweetness. Like he doesn't play the flute, he doesn't dance the Rasa Lila dance, etc. There are four things that he doesn't possess as far as sweetness goes, but as far as power goes, he has the same power as the Lord. So then Prabhupada says, Lord Sri Krishna and all his plenary parts are called Vishnu Tattva, or the Lordship of Godhead. Tattva means the truth, and Vishnu means Supreme Personality of Godhead. From Sri Krishna, the next manifestation is Baladeva, and from Baladeva is Sankarsan, and from Sankarsan is Narayana, and from Narayana there's the second Sankarsana, and from this Sankarsana the Vishnu Purusha avatars, meaning Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Shirodakshay Vishnu, or Purusha avatars. The Vishnu, or the deity of the quality of goodness in the material world, is the Purusha Avatara, as Shirodakshay Vishnu, or Paramatma. So, the third Vishnu expansion in the material world. So, in other words, we have the Narayana expansions in the spiritual world, and we have the Vishnu expansions in the material world. There's virtually no difference between Narayana and Vishnu. Same personality. The functions are different. So the Vishnu forms are for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world. And the Narayana forms are present in the Vaikuntha planets. Krishna himself is present, in his original form, is present in Goloka section of the spiritual world. So, when we talk about Lord Vishnu, who's in charge of the mode of goodness, we're talking about Kshirodakshay Vishnu, who is present in an island called Sweta Dweep, in the middle of an ocean called Ocean of Milk, inside the material world. But that island, or that abode, is actually transcendental. And the Devas can go to the shore of that lake or ocean of milk, but they can't go and see Lord Vishnu. They can only hear him. Why? Because the Devas are still somewhat tainted by the modes of material nature. And then it says, and Brahma is the deity of Rajas, or passion, and Shiva of ignorance. They are the three departmental heads of the three qualities of this material world. Creation is made possible by Brahma's quality of passion and his endeavor. It is maintained by the goodness of Vishnu, and when it requires to be destroyed, Lord Shiva does it by the Tandava Nritya. So Nritya means dance. Right? Tandava means the dance of destruction. So, when we talk about the deities, the personalities, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, we have to understand that Brahma and Shiva are slightly tainted by the qualities, material qualities, that they are in charge of. But Lord Vishnu isn't. He's completely transcendental. So this was a question that was asked by the Devas long time ago. They wanted to know which of the three murtis, Brahma, Shiva, or Vishnu, is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they deputed Bhrigu Muni to find out. Why? Because he's a son of Brahma, he's a brother of Shiva, and he's number one Brahmana worshipper of Lord Vishnu. So he had a relationship with all three, intimate relationship. So Bhrigu Muni goes to Brahmaloka to see his father. And when he goes there, he did not bow down, he did not immediately show, the proper respect, let's say, like that. And Brahma was glad to see him. It's one of his sons. But he noticed this, and he considered that offensive. And he began to get very angry. But Saraswati caught him, let's say, and reminded him that this is your son. So, when Bhrigu Muni saw this, in other words, Brahma became visibly upset, and not quite, or almost belligerent, and then Bhrigu Muni left. Then he went to see his brother Shiva, Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva was very happy to see him. And when he wanted to give him a hug, Bhrigu Muni said, please don't touch me. You have ashes from a crematorium, you have a necklace of skulls, and you have a snake around your head. He said, no, please don't touch me. And Lord Shiva became extremely angry. He was going to kill him. He was so angry. And Bhrigu Muni left right away. Parvati tried to cool him down, but it was a very close encounter. So then when he went to see Lord Vishnu was reclining, and Lakshmi Devi was massaging his feet. And when he saw Bhrigu Muni, he said, "Oh, Bhrigu Muni, my dear devotee, I'm so happy to see you." And Bhrigu Muni jumped up on his chest and came down with his feet on his chest. And like Lakshmi was stunned. And Lord Vishnu said, "Oh, my dear Bhrigu Muni, you're such a wonderful Brahmana. I'm afraid that the hardness of my chest might have hurt the softness of your feet. Please excuse me." Well, Bhrigu Muni was shocked. He couldn't believe this, and he jumped off and immediately gave his obeisances to the Lord. He realized this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because Brahma became upset by a mental offense, and Shiva became upset by a, let's say, a visible offense. But Lord Vishnu, Bhrigu Muni committed the worst offense, a physical offense, but the Lord did not react to it, and he was transcendental. So when he went back to the Devatas, he explained that, there's no doubt Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so that was settled millions of years ago. Why people are still discussing this point is unfathomable. Why would they still discuss this point when the Devas discussed this? And it was settled that Lord Vishnu is the Yagyapati, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's the recipient of all rituals, and he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, now, this is also stated by Lord Shiva. He says that Lord Vishnu is the only giver of liberation. Even Lord Shiva himself cannot do it. So, in the 7th chapter, Daivihi esa gunamai mama maya duratyaya mam evaye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the word mam eva, the words mam eva are also significant. Mam means unto Krishna, or Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva. So he says, Daivihi esa gunamai mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante. So, although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnations of Raja Guna, and meaning passion, and Tamaguna, meaning ignorance, to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya. Therefore, he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas, Svetasvatara Upanishad 3.8, confirm this in the phrase, Tam eva viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu. Lord Shiva says, Mukti pradata sarve sam Vishnur eva na samsayaha. There's no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. So, we have Vedic evidence now that Lord Vishnu is recognized by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva as Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the highest, let's say, authority in the Vedas for scholars are the Upanishads. And the Svetasvatara Upanishad clearly says that freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Okay, so for devotees, this is very clear. But for most people that are engaged in demigod worship, this is not clear at all. It's not a settled question. They will argue that Shiva is the supreme God and Krishna has surrendered to him. And they give some kind of evidence, before Rama went to Lanka, first he prayed to Lord Shiva, right, to get the blessings of the Lord so he could conquer Ravana. And they give different evidences like that to prove that Shiva is superior to Krishna or Vishnu. But actually it's not true. The highest evidence for the Vedic scholars are the Upanishads, and it clearly says that only Lord Vishnu can give freedom to the living entity. So, the materialists and the foolish human beings worship Brahma and Shiva respectively, but the pure transcendentalists worship the form of goodness, Lord Vishnu, in his various forms. Vishnu is manifested by his millions and billions of integrated forms and separated forms. The integrated forms are called Godhead, and the separated forms are called the living entities or the jivas. Both the jivas and Godhead have their original spiritual forms. Now, in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it begins with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it clearly says that this is the answer to the original question of the Vedanta Sutra. Atatu Brahma Jigyasa. Now let us inquire into the nature of the Absolute. And then the second aphorism says, Janmadasya Yata. The Absolute truth is that from which everything emanates. And now Vyasadeva answers right away in the introductory mantra of the Srimad Bhagavatam. What is this Janmadasya Yata? It is the supreme beautiful personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, or Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. And then the rest of the Bhagavatam is all about Krishna. It's not about worshipping this Deva or that Deva. It's uniquely about Krishna. And this was necessary because if someone reads all the other Vedas and supplementary Vedic literatures, you might not be convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But therefore, he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam to eliminate any equivocation, any doubt, any, type of evidence that maybe somebody else is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Lord Vishnu is the source of unlimited expansions in the spiritual world, meaning Narayana forms, and in the material world, meaning the Vishnu forms. There are billions of Vishnu forms because there's so many different universes, and you have so many, therefore, Karuna or Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnus. And then you have all the living entities. So to understand Krishna Tattva, you have to clearly understand the verse Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Matak Sarvam Pavartate Iti Matva Bhajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samanvita. Krishna says in 10th chapter, 8th verse, I am the source of everything material and spiritual. So that includes all the living entities, that includes the entire material creation, that includes all the incarnations, that includes all the Vishnu forms in the material world, that includes all Lila avatars, Yuga avatars, Manvantara avatar, Purusha avatar, Shaktavish avatars, all of them. And then it includes also all the Narayana forms, all the second Chaturvyuha, the first Chaturvyuha, Balaram, everything. And Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is present in every atom of the material universe and in the heart of every living entity. So you can imagine now the incredible number of expansions of the Lord. And as the Lord says, Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vasisyate. The Supreme Lord is perfect and complete. And because He's perfect and complete, everything that emanates from Him is also perfect and complete. And because infinite, perfect and complete entities and universes emanate from Him, still He remains perfect and complete. So, therefore, 1 + 1 = 1, 1 - 1 = 1 in the spiritual world. Not in the material world, but in the spiritual world, there's a different mathematics. Krishna is never depleted or diminished. Therefore, Parasya Shakti Vividaiva Shruyate. The Lord has unimaginable, infinite energies. And we as jivas are one of His energies. We're His marginal energy. And He has His internal energy and He has His external energy. So the subject of Krishna is not a simple subject. It requires great thought. But once you understand the scope of Krishna Tattva, you know you have no other choice in life but to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But ignorance is bliss. As long as we remain ignorant of all these things, watch television, chew gum, go to Disneyland and things like that, you'll never understand anything about God. Never understand. Because there's so much to understand. There's not 1 minute or 1 second to waste. But we don't feel that impetus, we don't feel that enthusiasm because our mind is diverted to mundane things. So the Srimad Bhagavatam was specifically written so that we could engage our mind 24 hours a day thinking about Krishna. That's how great this one book is, and Bhagavad Gita along with it. So jivas are sometimes subjected to the control of the material energy, but the Vishnu forms are always controllers of this energy. Now this is important because if you listen to the explanation of the so-called scientists and philosophers, they claim that the material energy is self-perpetuating on its own. It doesn't have someone controlling it. It has its own internal control mechanisms without any person supervising it. This is called, of course, an absurd concept. But that's what they say. And that's what they teach your kids. Okay, you went to school probably in India. Did they say anything like that? Yes? What grade did they begin to poison your mind with that nonsense? Huh? 8th, 9th. Probably you went to school in India. Did they teach something like that? Yeah. What grade did they start to poison your mind? Yeah. Right. Yeah, the idea that nature has this, Aristotle introduced this idea, the teleological current of nature. You know what that means, teleological? Teleological. Let's look it up on Wikipedia. So, we, the jivas, are sometimes subjected to the control of material energy, but the Vishnu forms are always controllers of this energy. When Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, appears in the material world, he comes to deliver the conditioned living beings who are under the material energy. Such living beings appear in the material world with intentions of being lords, and thus they become entrapped by the three modes of nature. As such, the living entities have to change their material coverings for undergoing different terms of imprisonment. Now, this is extremely important. This explains why we are in the cycle of samsara, birth, death, old age, disease, and we're repeating it over and over again. Because we want to be controller. The controller is also the so-called enjoyer. But the more we control and the more we try to enjoy, the more we get entrapped by the material nature, by the laws of karma. What does it say? Teleological? Speak really loud. Let's give a microphone over here.
In essence, it's a philosophy, that explanation that is based to serve the purpose as opposed to trying to find the cause.
Yes, so Aristotle was saying that inherent in nature is this natural movement of nature to perfect itself. And therefore, he laid the basis for Darwin's theory of evolution of species and all these type of ideas, that nature itself has some ingrained tendency of perfecting itself, of wanting to achieve a goal rather than being simply random. Right? And this is a nonsense idea. It sounds nice, but basically, see the difference. Why did Aristotle do this? Because he differed from Plato and Socrates, although he was a disciple of Plato. He didn't agree with them when it came to the existence of a spiritual world, and with that, some kind of perfect world. And this world is simply a shadow, illusory world, a poor reflection of the spiritual world, which was static and perfect. Right? That also is a nonsense idea, but that's all they had at that time. So Aristotle becomes the father of modern science and speculation and philosophy by introducing this teleological, let's say, movement in nature. That it inherent in nature is this ability to perfect itself as it goes along. Huh?
It explicitly says that there is no need to, the focus is not on trying to find the cause. That's not the objective. We don't need to find the cause. As long as you have an explanation that is surrounded around explaining the purpose. So this explanation serves the purpose, like this is the reason why this is happening, but you don't need to find the original cause.
Right. So the whole Bhagavatam is about understanding the original cause. So you see how clever these people are. I mean, they're very clever, and it has misled humanity for 2,500 years, especially the Western world. So when we try to control material nature, we become entrapped by it. And the entrapment is due to the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. As such, living entities have to change their material coverings for undergoing different terms of imprisonment. Now, everything that you see today, all newspaper articles, all seminars, everything, it's all about controlling material nature for increased sense gratification. That's what it is. And that's what they teach our kids also in school. It's all about, you can control material nature. In fact, you can make material nature better by artificial intelligence or using mechanical devices, or building bridges, building skyscrapers, building electric cars, doing this, doing that. I mean, they're all convinced that they're going to one-up it on nature. Say. And the more they do that, the more they can become entangled. And when I say they, we're talking about ourselves. Not that there's them and us. We're talking about ourselves. All of us are trying to control material nature in one way or other. Just like, you get air conditioners, then you get screens, then you get sonic booms to keep mosquitoes and bugs away from your house, or you get peppermint oil to keep the ants and rats away. We're trying to control material nature, and it's a constant battle, right? Or you get a water purifier, or you get, I don't know, there's so many things that people are getting. The Japanese walk around with a mask on all the time. So, and the Chinese also, you see them walking around with a mask on, They don't want to breathe in the air, And everyone's trying to control material nature. And it's impossible, right? Why? Daivihi esa gunamai, mamamaya durateya. Krishna says clearly it's impossible. This divine energy in mind, this gunamai, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but actually it's impossible to overcome. So Srila Prabhupada said in a morning walk, life comes from life, morning walk 14, he said, you can conquer nature, meaning birth, death, old age, and disease, by surrendering to Krishna. Right? They don't teach that in school, do they? They say you can conquer nature by artificial intelligence, by mechanics, by electromagnetism, whatever. But here Prabhupada says in the 14th chapter, 14th morning walk, you can conquer nature, birth, death, old age, and disease, by surrendering to Krishna. Well, that's what he says. Daiviye sagunamaya, mama maya duratya, mam evaye prapadyante, mayam etam tarantite. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So, the prison house in the material world is created by Brahma under instruction of the personality of Godhead. And at the conclusion of a kalpa, that means the whole thing is destroyed by Shiva. After 100 years of Brahma, the whole thing is destroyed. So that's like some 400 trillion some years. Everything is destroyed. But what's actually destroyed is like the spider. The spider spins its web with its own saliva, and it can reabsorb the web. Like you could spit out a little bit of saliva, you could suck it back in again. That's what the spider does. So basically, the Mahavishnu is the black hole that all the scientists are talking about. They just don't understand it, They think it's just a hole, like a golf hole or something. But no, it's not a golf hole. It's Mahavishnu. So we're living in a prison house. This material world is a prison house. And what is everyone striving for? Freedom. Freedom from old age, freedom from disease, freedom from death, freedom from birth. Right? They have so many, contraceptives now and abortion. They want to, be free of birth. And they have so many different ways, protein supplements and Botox and this injection and that injection to prolong life and so forth. But they're all useless, hopeless methods. The best way to control, the best way to have freedom from birth, death, old age, and disease, mamevye prapadyante, mayametam tarantite. Just surrender to the Lord. And then everything becomes easy. But no, they won't do it. It's too easy. Give me something harder to do. See, that's what they do. That's too easy. Just chant Hare Krishna to be liberated. Give me something harder to do. Let me put my foot behind my ear and hold it like that for an hour or something like that. So the whole thing is nonsense. But as far as maintenance of the prison house is concerned, is done by Vishnu, as much as the state prison house is maintained by the state. So you see, Prabhupada will always take something known to explain something unknown. Right? So the state is maintaining the prisons. And Lord Vishnu is maintaining the material world, which is a prison. And we're all limited in the material world. Limited by the type of body we get. Anyone, therefore, who wishes to get out of this prison house of material existence, which is full of miseries, like repetition of birth, death, disease, and old age, must please Lord Vishnu for such liberation. Now, why does he say Lord Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, and not just say Krishna? Because this is the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. When we get near the end, it starts saying Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. See? But now it's saying Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. Actually, there's a very nice purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I don't have it right now, but I'll bring it next week, where Prabhupada explains, you can say Vishnu, or you can say Narayana, or you can say Krishna, or you can say Rama. It's all the same person. You know. But we know that, but not everybody knows that. Like the Shiva Vaishnavas argue like, no, it's only Narayana. You know, somebody else will argue it's Shiva, and someone else will argue it's Brahma, or this one or that, or my grandfather. So we have to stick to the acharyas, the Vaishnava acharyas, especially the Gaudiya Vaishnava. And in the beginning, you have the greatest authorities. You have Lord Brahma, you have Narada, you have Vyasa, and then Sukadeva Goswami, and so forth. These are the authorities we should rely on. So, Lord Vishnu is worshipped by devotional service only, and if anyone has to continue prison life in the material world, he may ask for relative facilities for temporary relief from the different demigods, like Shiva, Brahma, Indra, and Varuna. No demigod, however, can release the imprisoned living being from the conditioned life of material existence. This can be done only by Vishnu. Therefore, the ultimate benefit may be derived from Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. Now, this is also stated in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where it says, Yepi anya devata bhakta yajante shodayantmita tepimam evakonte yajanti avidipurvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. And Prabhupada says, persons who are engaged in the worship of demigods are not very intelligent, although such worship is offered to me indirectly. Why is that? Because whatever the demigods receive, they offer it to the Lord. It's just like the Viceroy of India. He was the direct representative of the Queen or King of England. So he would go around India, see all the Maharajas and see all the different little kingdoms, and they would always give him precious gifts. And he would load it all on a boat and send it to London. He wouldn't keep any of it, say. So that's what the demigods are. They're like viceroys of Krishna. And whatever they're offered, they offer it to the Lord. They don't keep one penny. Krishna says, for example, when a man pours water on the leaves and the branches of a tree without pouring water on the root, he does so without sufficient knowledge or without observing regulative principles. Similarly, the process of rendering service to different parts of the body is to supply food to the stomach. The demigods are, so to speak, different officers and directors in the government of the Supreme Lord. One has to follow the laws made by the government, not by the officers or directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors of the Lord. The officers and directors are engaged as representatives of the government, and to offer some bribe to the officers and directors is illegal. This is stated here as avidipurvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve of the unnecessary worship of the demigods. And this he proved in the pastime of Govardhan Hill, where he discouraged his father, stopped the worship of Lord Indra, and proved that worshiping Govardhan is non-different than worshiping him. However, here it says, in the previous verse, he said that No, in the next verse he says, Aham hi sarva yagyanam bhoktacha prabhur evacha natumam abhijananti tatvinatas chavantite. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. So the worshippers of the demigods who say, that this God is the absolute God, and Krishna is dependent on him or her, whatever. These people fall down. At first, they get many material benefits. Like worshippers of Shiva oftentimes become wealthy and powerful. But in the end, they're defeated and they lose everything. Because this is what Lord Shiva or Durga Mata, this is her best mercy on the living entity. First she gives, Durga Mata first gives what the devotee, her devotee wants, and then she slowly takes it away till the person is totally devastated and bewildered. And in that state of bewilderment and devastation, there's an opportunity to become Krishna conscious. When one is completely devastated, they come running with their tail between their legs to the temple and say, Prabhu, please do some puja, please, I'm having problems, I have business problems, family problems, health problems, this problem, that. Please do something, But usually, if they get relief from the problem, then they don't come to the temple again. So they haven't been tortured enough, let's put it like that. So then Mother Durga does a second job on them, and then eventually they come and they say, okay, I surrender. I want to chant Hare Krishna now. I want to, become like you guys. So here it clearly states that there are many types of yajna performances recommended in the Vedic literatures, but actually all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Yajna means Vishnu. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should only work for satisfying yajna or Vishnu. Yajnarta karmano nyata lokamam karma bandhana. The perfectional form of human civilization known as Varnashram Dharma is specifically meant for satisfying Vishnu. Therefore, Krishna says in this verse, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices because I am the Supreme Master. Less intelligent persons, however, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary benefit. Therefore, they fall down to the material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he will thus achieve the desired result. So, yes, there's a verse that says that whether you have no material desire or you have all material desires, still you should come to Krishna. Yeah. Yes. So, or you have no material desire or you have all material desires, you should come to Lord Krishna, right? Because there's a chance of becoming purified. Because if you come to Lord Krishna, you also come to devotees of Krishna, and they will eventually explain to you the difference between pure devotional service and mixed devotional service. It's only by pure devotional service that one can get the real benediction from Krishna, and that is freedom from the laws of material nature, freedom from your karma, and the greatest benediction is devotional service itself. Okay, so the next verse, 1:2:24. Firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than the raw wood. And fire is still better, for by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas. But goodness, sattva, is best, because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. So, what is the process of devotional service? It's gradually, when a new person comes, it's gradually to help them come out of the mode of goodness to the mode of passion, come out of the mode of passion to the mode of goodness, come out of the mode of goodness to transcendental goodness. And it can happen very quickly, or it could take a long time, depending on how serious the person is. The quicker it is, the happier they are. The slower it is, people come up to me all the time and they say, Prabhu, I'm chanting, I've been chanting for so many years, but I don't feel any happiness. I know this one devotee, now he's like 78 years old, I think. So I knew him when he was in his 60s. And he said, I've been chanting, 30, 40 years, but I'm not happy. I said, why not? He said, I got to have another wife. I said, you already had a wife, and you have children, and you have grandchildren. He said, no, I have to have another wife. So how is it going to be happy, right? This is the problem. There's such a thing as chanting without offenses. Pure chanting of the holy name will give you that happiness, that inner feeling of satisfaction, because it brings you closer to Krishna. Krishna and his holy name are non-different. If we chant sincerely, we actually feel the presence of Krishna in our life. But that's just an explanation, but one must actually experience it. Therefore, there are difficulties in life. Difficulties are actually the mercy of Krishna, because when there are difficulties, a devotee will come closer to Krishna, take refuge, more refuge, will double down on following the rules and regulations, on chanting good rounds, being more regulated. And then you see that your problem will eventually go away. It doesn't go away by eating more, sleeping more, having more sense gratification. It goes away by regulating these things and eliminating all nonsense in one's life. So, but if there are impediments on the progressive path, anyone, even from the platform of tamas, can gradually rise to the sattva platform by the expert direction of the spiritual master. Sincere candidates must therefore approach an expert spiritual master for such a progressive march. And the bona fide expert spiritual master is competent to direct a disciple from any stage of life, tamas, rajas, or sattva. So when Prabhupada was working, he had a pharmacy, he had 5 or more kids, he had a wife, and he was also following his guru's instructions. So sometimes he would recommend, once he recommended to someone, he said, look, you chant 4 rounds early in the morning, 4 rounds a little bit later, 4 rounds at lunch, and 4 rounds before dinner. That's 60. Right. He was chanting 64, but when devotees were asking. But actually, that means you're regulated, right? Most people are not so regulated. So therefore, the best thing is to chant 16 rounds early in the morning. And to do that, you have to be regulated again. But it's better to be regulated to wake up early and chanting all your rounds than to be regulated to chant 4 rounds early, 4 rounds a little later, 4 rounds a little later, 4 rounds a little later. Because so many things, especially if you're married, so many things are happening in life that you don't have that clear-cut regulation throughout the day. Therefore, chanting earlier in the morning, waking up at least 4 o'clock or earlier, is very important for all grihastas. But to do that, you have to be determined to take rest early and control your eating. No eating late at night, and so forth. And so many articles are out now that eating late at night is very detrimental for health. They're coming out with all these articles. The truth is there. It's just like in every cigarette packet. The Surgeon General says, you smoke, you'll get cancer, right? But still people are smoking, even though the truth is there. And the truth is there. It's coming out every day. Eating meat is bad for you. And, eating late at night is bad for you. And sleeping, till 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning is bad for you. But still people are doing it. They haven't stopped. So knowledge does not lead to perfection. Because there's so much knowledge, right? You go on Wikipedia, you can find out everything, right? what actually changes a person's life is association of good devotees who are strictly following. That's the difference. And being willing to take advice. Just like someone was telling me the other day, oh, this person did this and did that, and then they're such a good person. I said, the real criterion of a good person is they take good advice from devotees. You can say they did this or they did that. That's not the criterion. The criterion is that they take good advice and they follow it. You know, just like Krishna is giving so much advice to Arjuna. At first, he refuses to follow it. But then, after hearing all Krishna's explanation, he said, I'm going to follow it. That's a really good person. Right? So, someone might ask me, well, how can I improve my rounds? Well, take rest early, wake up early. Are you going to do it? See, that's the question. Like, Prabhupada gives the example. You go to a doctor, you pay him, $100 or $500, and you get some medicine. It does all the diagnosis and prognosis and everything. It gives you medicine. You go home, you throw the medicine in the garbage can. So, what good is it? Or why did you go to the doctor then? So if you're going to ask a question from a devotee, you say, how can I improve my chanting? And they say, you have to wake up early. And you don't do it. Then why did you ask the question? It was just a waste of time for the person who asked the question and for yourself. Why waste your time asking a question like that if you're not going to follow the advice? So, Prabhupada says, sincere candidates must therefore approach an expert spiritual master for such a progressive march. And a bona fide expert spiritual master is competent to direct the disciple from any stage of life, tamas, rajas, or sattva. It is a mistake, therefore, to consider the worship of any quality and any form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is equally beneficial. In other words, people say, oh, all the gods are good. This God, that God is the same thing. Or, chanting is very good, but it doesn't matter. You could chant Hare Krishna, you could chant Coca-Cola. It's the breed. Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. That's what makes the difference. No, that's nonsense, you say. Why should we listen to these type of phony explanations? It's actually an offense against the holy name to give some interpretation on the holy name, the fifth offense. See? So, no, we have to follow the path chalked out. Jai Shri Radha Nilamadava Ki Jai. Oh, no, it's So it is a mistake, therefore, to consider that worship of any quality or any form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is equally beneficial. Except Vishnu, all separated forms are manifested under the conditions of material energy, and therefore the forms of material energy cannot help anyone to rise to the platform of sattva, which alone can liberate a person from the material bondage. The uncivilized state of life, or the life of the lower animals, is controlled by the mode of tamas. So, most people today are controlled by the mode of tamas. And so Prabhupada says, the civilized life of man, with a passion for various types of material benefits, is the stage of rajas. The rajas stage of life gives a slight clue to the realization of the absolute truth in the forms of fine sentiments in philosophy, art, and culture with moral and ethical principles. So, many of the New Age religions today, the self-help, self-improvement religions, they say, how to get along with this one or that one, how to speak or how to think or how to order the universe. That's their favorite thing, order the universe. You can order the universe by putting out your vibration. This is all nonsense, right? But people love this. Now, I was telling you about this radio program on 1150 on AM radio, 24 hours a day, all speculation and nonsense. So there was one program in the afternoon, people were calling into this lady, and they said, oh, so-and-so, there's this one room in my house where, I don't know, it has some kind of a smell, and I can't get rid of it. It's causing a headache, and it's making me go crazy. She said, I can feel it right now. I'm going to try and move it out of your house now. I need you to help me. Open the door a little bit so I can get it to move out. This is going on the radio. And people are listening to it, and the people are calling in with these type of crazy requests, and the person is feeding them like, I'm moving it now. I think I'm down the corridor, and he said, now open the front door. And I got it out now. And he said, can you feel it? He said, yeah, I feel it now. Oh, thank you so much. And people are nuts. They've gone crazy in this society. They're believing this nonsense. You say, 11:50 if you want to hear nonsense. So these civilized people who, express these finer sentiments of philosophy, art, culture, they go to the concerts of, opera or the symphony music, and they're all dressed up nicely, and they're hearing this. What are they hearing? It's some Italian opera. It's all about illicit sex. The whole Italian opera is about illicit sex. But they're singing, like this and everything, and dressed up nice. And, people are sitting there listening. They don't understand one word of it, right? It's all in Italian, and you can't even understand because they're singing it, But they think, oh, it's so uplifting. But the whole story was about illicit sex. So this is what we're up against today, But the mode of sattva is still higher stage of material quality, which actually helps one in realizing the absolute truth. In other words, there is a qualitative difference between the different kinds of worshipping methods, as well as the respective results derived from the predominating deities, namely Brahma, Vishnu, and Hara, or Shiva. Now the next verse says, previously all the great sages rendered service unto the personality of Godhead due to his existence above the three modes of material nature. They worshipped him to become free from material conditions and thus derive the ultimate benefit. Whoever follows such great authorities is also eligible for liberation from the material world. That's it. Okay. Thank you. So, Mahajana Yenagata Sapanta. We should follow the great authorities. Whose great authorities? Well, we have Srila Prabhupada, the greatest authority for us, because he's condensed down the milk to pure nectar and of all the teachings of the acharyas. So, the purpose of performing religious activity should never be for material profit, by material gain, nor to get simple knowledge of discerning matter from spirit. So this is the jnanis. They try and differentiate what is matter, what is spirit. And they can go on indefinitely. Neti, 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 neti. This is not spirit, this is not spirit. Like that. Or for doing pujas for hire in order to get material benefits. So that's not the purpose of religion. It's not religious. These are materialistic activities. The ultimate aim of religious performances is to release oneself from material bondage and regain the life of freedom from the transcendental world. There it is. This is the purpose of life. Freedom, right? Everyone wants freedom. The American Revolutionary War, people said, give me liberty or give me death. Okay. In other words, this freedom is what, Swaraj, right? This was the call, everyone wants this freedom. But the real freedom is Krishna consciousness. You don't have to wait till death to be free. You're free right now, free of karma. Isam twantikitam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajante mam chitravata. Those who have acted piously in this life and in previous lives and are completely purified of all sinful reactions, only they can engage in devotional service. So, that seems to be a very high bar. But if you, or if we, sincerely chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on a regular basis, and according to Prabhupada's instructions, we can very quickly be liberated. Well, when we say liberated, it's not exactly liberated. Very quickly, our karma can be put on hold. But Prabhupada clearly says, if you leave Krishna consciousness, it'll come back. It's not that, oh, it's purified now. No, it's put on hold to give you a chance to practice Krishna consciousness. But if we begin to do nonsense, it comes right back again. We'll go back to being who we were before. So, the laws of religion, therefore, are directly enacted by the personality of Godhead, and except for the Mahajanas, or the authorized agents of the Lord, no one knows the purpose of religion. There are 12 particular agents of the Lord who know the purpose of religion, and all of them render transcendental service unto Him. Persons who desire their own good may follow these Mahajanas and thus attain the supreme benefit. So Narada Muni wrote the Narada Panchatattva. Narada Panchatattva, yeah. So this is a fundamental book of devotional service, right? Everything we're doing is based on that book. And he is a Mahajan. He's one of the 12 Mahajans. So he's the one we should follow. Then the next verse, 26. Those who are serious about liberation are certainly non-envious, and they respect all. And that's a big statement. They respect all. That means all living entities. They can be demigods, or they can be, amoebas. They respect all. Yet they reject the horrible and ghastly forms of the demigods and worship only the all blissful forms of Lord Vishnu and his plenary portions. So this is not a fanatical statement. This is just a statement of fact. The devotees give their respect to the demigods, but they don't engage in worshiping them, because people who worship the demigods, they do it for a material purpose. Just like it's said in the Bhagavad Gita that Antavanta Tamam in the 7th chapter, it says that those who worship the demigods do so for material benefits. And they're doing that out of ignorance. So, Antavat tu phalam te sam tad bhavite aplamedasam. Devan deva yajo yanti madbhakta yantimam api. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. 7th chapter, 23rd verse. So, why waste our time worshiping demigods when we can worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? That's the purpose of this section of the Bhagavatam, 23 to verse 26. So, therefore, the Supreme Personality of Sri Krishna, who is the original person of the Vishnu categories, expands himself in 2 different categories, namely integrated plenary portions and separated plenary portions. The separated parts and parcels are the servitors, and the integrated plenary portions of Vishnu Tattvas are the worshipful objects of service. All demigods who are empowered by the Supreme Lord are also separated parts and parcels. They do not belong to the categories of Vishnu Tattva. So, unfortunately, in India, it's all mixed up. It's one big khichdi pot. You can worship whoever you want, and they think, you get the same result. Why not worship Murugan? Why not worship this one, that one? Why not worship your grandmother? It's the same thing. There was a Chinese man called Something, right? But it's not something. It's not the same thing. So, all demigods who are empowered by the Supreme Lord are also separated parts and parcels. They do not belong to the categories of Vishnu Tattva. The Vishnu Tattvas are the living beings equally as powerful as the original form of the Personality of Godhead, and they display different categories of power in consideration of different times and circumstances. The separated parts and parcels are powerful by limitation, They do not have unlimited power like the Vishnu Tattvas. So their power is limited, just like the power of the President of the United States is limited, the power of the Congress is limited, the power of the judicial section is limited, the power of the husband is limited, the power of the wife is limited. Everything is limited, right? We want it to be unlimited, but it's limited because we're not God, and neither are the demigods. Therefore, one should never classify the Vishnu Tattvas or the plenary portions of Narayana, the personality of Godhead, in the same categories with the parts and parcels. If anyone does so, he becomes at once an offender by the name Pasandi. In the age of Kali, many foolish persons commit such unlawful offenses and equalize the two categories. So this is going on too much today, and because of that, people are suffering. Just like we recently did this one funeral, and I explained that, the mother of the person that died, she got tired hearing me speak, so she went, gave the word, tell him to stop speaking. So I stopped speaking. But then they had a priest come in who did a ceremony to lead the dead person back to Vaikuntha. Right. They do this traditionally in South India. Now, is that ceremony going to lead this person back to Vaikuntha? You tell me. As if by doing a ritual after someone dies will lead the person back to the spiritual world. First of all, let's analyze that person's life to see if they actually merit going back to Godhead. Yam yam vapi smanam avam tiyajat anti kalibram. Whatever you think of at the moment of death, that's what you become. So what was this person thinking of? Right? So therefore, you have the Shraddha ceremony. The Shraddha ceremony is offering your accumulated pious activities to your loved one who's died to help them. That is a bona fide thing. But this ceremony that so-called is going to lead someone back to Vaikuntha after they died without any understanding of their qualifications, it's a bunch of nonsense. But yet it's a traditional thing. That's, people pay for it. They don't want to hear about Atma Tattva, but they want that ceremony, that ritual. And this is the sorry state of Hinduism today. Okay, so therefore, but those who are actually situated in the mode of goodness, sattva guna, of material nature, worship only Vishnu Tattvas. Vishnu Tattvas are represented by various names and forms such as Narayana, Damodara, Vamana, Govinda, and Ahoksaja. The qualified brahmanas worship the Vishnu Tattvas, represented by the Shalagram Shila, and some of the higher castes, like the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, also generally worship the Vishnu Tattvas. Highly qualified brahmanas situated in the mode of goodness have no grudges against the mode of worship of others. This is important. They have all respect for other demigods, even though they may look ghastly, like Kala Bhairava or Mahakali. They know very well that these horrible features of the Supreme Lord are all different servitors of the Lord under different conditions. Yet they reject the worship of both horrible and attractive features of the demigods. And they concentrate only on the forms of Vishnu because they are serious about liberation from the material conditions. The demigods, even to the stage of Brahma, the supreme of all the demigods, cannot offer liberation to anyone. Hiranyakashipu underwent a severe type of penance to become eternal in life, but his worshipful deity Brahma could not satisfy him with such blessings. Therefore Vishnu, and none other, is called Muktipada, or the personality of Godhead, who can bestow upon us mukti, real liberation. The demigods can give us conditional liberation. You can go to this planet and live for 10,000 years. You can go to that planet and live for 100,000 years. You can go to this other planet and live for 1,000,000 years, but you're still subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. So why should we be tricked by this conditional liberation? Why not take the real thing? Therefore, Vishnu and none else is called Muktipada. The demigods, being like other living entities in the material world, are all liquidated at the time of annihilation of the material structure. They are themselves unable to get liberation, and what to speak of giving liberation to their devotees. The demigods can award the worshippers some temporary benefit only, and not the ultimate one. So, Prabhupada said in Chaitanya Charitamrita that the potential of the living entity, the jiva, is to become more powerful than the sun. Do you believe it? We should believe it, because Surya is a jiva like us, and he controls the sun. So that's a potential that we have in the material world by practicing Krishna consciousness. But our potential is even greater than that. We can go back to Godhead. Why stop at being like Surya or Brahma? We can go back to Godhead and finish this whole thing of birth, death, old age, and disease. That's our real potential. It's like someone says, oh, if you do good in your studies, then you'll get a PhD from Yale, and then you'll start at $150,000 a year, and then it'll keep going up, and you'll have a house and a car and a vacation house, and you'll be able to do this, you'll be able to... Is that our potential? No, that's not our potential. Our potential is we can go back to Godhead eternally, right? Or if you want to stop at being Surya or Brahma, that's also, but still you're subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. So we don't know what our potential is. We don't know how powerful we can be. We don't understand these things. We're dumbed down by modern science and philosophers and this and that, and read these books and that book, and just waste our time becoming programmed for failure in human life. Programmed for failure. So now the next verse, 27 and 28, are going to explain rejecting, 26 and 27 is rejecting demigod worship, and 28 and 29, Vasudeva is the essence of all processes. So we'll stop on 27, 28 and keep the other for next week. So those who are in the mode of passion and ignorance worship those in the same category, namely the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities. For they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny, children. That is, having a dynasty, right? How our family name will live on forever. Yeah. So there's no need to worship the demigods of whatever category if one is serious about going back to Godhead. Now, if you want to stay in the material world, maybe there's a reason why you want to worship the demigod. But if you want to go back to Godhead, you don't have to worship any demigod. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:20-23, it is clearly said that those who are mad after material enjoyment approach the different demigods for temporary benefits which are meant for men with a poor fund of knowledge. So people will go even to Balaji and say, Balaji, please let my daughter pass this test. Or Balaji, my grandmother, there's diabetes, please do something. So they're going anywhere. Whoever they think can give them their satisfaction of their material desires. We should never desire to increase the depth of material enjoyment. So nowadays, they're talking about robots. People will marry robots in the future. They're becoming more and more human-like, humanoids, right? And they're talking about all the psychological variances and having a robot as a husband or a wife, right? And it's all to increase sense gratification. It's all to increase sense gratification, right? It has nothing, I mean, you can see how silly people have become. And they actually, PhDs are studying this now, and they're giving courses and, relationships with robots in the future. People have gone nuts, right? So, we should never desire to increase the depth of material enjoyment. Material enjoyment should be accepted only up to the point of the bare necessities of life and not more or less than that. To accept more material enjoyment means to bind oneself more and more to the miseries of material existence. More wealth, more women, more false aristocracy are some of the demands of the materially disposed man, because he has no information of the benefit derived from Vishnu worship. So this one man came up to me in the Folk Life Festival, and he said, "You know how old I am?" I said, "No, I don't know." He said, "Take a guess." I said, "I don't know. Are you 70 years old?" "No, almost got it. I'm 64. I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "You look a little older." He said, I know, but I'm working on it." I said, "What are you doing?" "I met this 76-year-old woman now, and we're having the best sense gratification I've ever had in my whole life. What do you think about that?" I said, "Stop immediately." "What? What did you say?" I said, "Stop immediately. You're going to shorten your lifespan by doing that." So what do you mean? I've never been so happy in my whole life. And I said, "No, you're destroying yourself. You have to immediately stop." He said, "I'm not going to talk to you anymore," and he walked away. You see how crazy people are? He met a 76-year-old woman and is enjoying better sex than he's ever had in his life. And he thinks that this is an achievement. It's not an achievement. I told him, "Stop immediately. You're going to ruin your life." He said, No. He said, "No, I'm not going to talk to you anymore." And he walked away. That's why coming out preaching in the public, you learn a lot. You learn about not only depraved things. You see, you learn from two types of people. From the person who is genuinely intelligent and genuinely a devotee, you learn what to do. And from all the crazies, you learn what not to do. They're both gurus. You can learn from both, right? We don't realize how crazy people are. We live in a bubble, we think, no one could be like that. But you go out there and you start preaching to people, you'll suddenly see how unfortunate and crazy they are. And a few of them will listen. I guarantee a few of them will listen. Like 1 in 100 will listen and will be benefited and will thank you. But the other 99 are so crazy they can't accept good advice. So, to accept more material enjoyment means to bind oneself more and more to the miseries of material existence, more wealth, and so forth. By Vishnu worship, one can derive benefit in this life as well as in life after death. Forgetting these principles, foolish people who are after more wealth, more sense gratification, more children, blah, 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 worship various demigods. The aim of life is to end the miseries of life and not to increase them. For material enjoyment, there is no need to approach the demigods. The demigods are but servants to the Lord. As such, they are duty-bound to supply necessities of life in the form of water, light, air, etc. One should work hard and worship the Supreme Lord by the fruits of one's hard labor for existence, and that should be the motto of life. So we're going to stop on this motto of life. One should work hard and worship the Supreme Lord by the fruits of one's hard labor for existence, and that should be the motto of life. Now, last time I told you to write something, and did you do it? Prabhu, come on. Okay, now this is the second thing. I want this motto of life. Right? It's in verse 1-27. What? Oh yeah, that you were in the morning class. Yeah, okay. So you want to write that down? I want to see it tomorrow on the wall. Okay. Every time we walk by, we should. If you have a hat, you should take your hat off. One should work hard and worship the Supreme Lord by the fruits of one's hard labor for existence, and that should be the motto of life. One should be careful to execute occupational service with faith in God in the proper way, and that will lead one gradually on the progressive march back to Godhead. Okay. Lord Sri Krishna, when he was personally present at Vrajadama, stopped the worship of the demigod Indra and advised the residents of Vraja to worship by their business and have faith in God. Worship by your business. Worship by your business and have faith in God. And you worship by your business, you work hard, and by the fruits of one's hard labor for existence, that should be, you use the fruits of your work to worship the Supreme Lord. So, now we know what we should do. So it was worth coming to class. Right? And that last verse, those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance worship those in the same category, namely the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities, for they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. So this women, wealth, power, and progeny. By the way, Jeff Bezos' wife, who just divorced him, got approximately over $70 billion. And she announced 2 days ago in a newspaper that she's giving away $36 billion to charity. She's more charitable than her husband. He was going to give $2 million for homeless people. She's giving away $36 billion. What are you going to do with $70 billion? You can't spend it in a lifetime. And you don't need $70 billion to live, right? So she's giving away half of it for charity, right? You see? So she's smarter than her husband. He's thinking, oh, I'll give away half, but I'll make much more in the future, you know. And she's giving away half of what she got. Right? Yeah, so we'll stop right there and continue next week. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So it's very important to read ahead of time these chapters. So next week we're going to read 28, 29, and then the next part.